Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Beers with Bill. It is my pleasure to welcome back Melanie Doerksen from Charlotteville Brewing Company. Melanie, welcome back on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you asking me back on.
Well, we had some unfinished questions the last time.
I know, we just got down a path. It seemed like we were going down a different rabbit hole, so it was
That's
good.
perfectly okay. Which beer are we going to start with tonight?
We're going to start with the Italian Pilsner.
Okay.
I only have one beer to share with you tonight because I left the brewery in a hurry and I forgot the rest of them there. So this one's going to last throughout the night for me. So I apologize. But so the Italian Pilsner, this is a new beer for us for just this year. Obviously a Pilsner. We have gone down a path with some Ericlea, which is a particular type of Italian malt, which is why we were calling it an Italian Pilsner. I think all in all, it's a good beer overall. It's clear, it's crisp, it's nice. There's a good IBU associated with it, but there's I think a good malt balance to kind of help it. So it's not over the top and in your face, but yeah.
So why that particular malt?
Because I was at a conference. I was at the OCB conference. We were just getting going, and it was just BSG was there. That's who we tend to buy the majority of our malts from. And they were giving samples away, like, by the handful kind of thing. And it tasted fantastic. And I just thought, if it tastes good just to eat it like this, it must be fantastic in a beer. So I've made this beer with it, and I've made it with just a regular Pilsner and like a regular Pilsner malt. And both beers were good, but I don't know, there's just something a bit more heartier about this particular malt that I enjoy.
I'm enjoying it, I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you.
Do you have to do anything special with the water when you're doing a Pilsner?
I don't. I know some people don't like that. But we really, to be quite frank, we don't treat our water in any way. What we get out of the well is what we get out of the well. And that's, I think, a part of that's part of the reason why people like our beers. Most of the
what's going on. This normally works.
Is everybody okay? Okay. Sorry. So yeah, I just so with any of the beers, we don't change the water profile. We just kind of go with what we've got. And when we're making a beer, when we're putting stuff together, when we're putting recipes together, we are still trying to stay as true to hops and grain as we possibly can. But yeah, the water profile, I kind of like it just as we are. And it's kind of, for me, it's an essential part of what you get when you come to our place. It's the terroir that you drink when you are coming to Norfolk. That's all.
So unlike the water that we find in Cambridge, where most of the people have tuned in from, which is about as hard as you can get, the water in Norfolk County a little bit softer because you're down by the lake, or?
No, we have quite hard water at the farm as well. So we just kind of, we just make it work. That's what we've got. And so that's what we've got. So we just, don't really think too much about it.
Andrea's curious, because you're on a well, does the water profile sort of cycle across the seasons, or is it maintain itself pretty reasonably consistent?
That's a good question. We have to get our well water tested every 3 months. And from what we're getting, like from the information that we're getting back, it doesn't look like it changes that much throughout the season. So one would think that it might, but we haven't really seen any changes over the last little while.
Now, you just going to say recently being like 4 or 5 months back, celebrated your 3rd year anniversary of being open.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm curious about 2 things. First
Okay.
one being, what did it feel like walking into the brewery space when you were finally ready to start brewing?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the first feeling that I felt was panic. And then the first thought that followed the panic was, holy shit, I'm going to be in debt until I'm 70. And then once I got over that, it was like, okay, so let's just get into this and let's start making some beer. So, yeah.
Wow. Until
Yeah.
you're 70.
Well, yeah.
Feels that way, right?
It does. It does feel that way. That's probably a little extreme, but yeah, that's what I felt like when I first walked in. It was just like, how am I going to pay for all of this stuff? We've got to start selling a lot of beer. So, yeah.
We'll go to 65. That'll be easier.
Oh, hopefully, yeah.
Is there anything you would have done differently?
When we were setting up the brewery itself, I would probably say, yeah, I would have given myself a bit more space. It's one thing to kind of, you're looking at these drawings and you're looking at the layout of how, tanks are going to go and this and that. And I think the flow of our brewery is very good, but yeah, there's just a couple of things like with just storage or proper lab space, like we're setting up and tearing down and moving things and putting them on a shelf and then bringing them out when we need them. And just a lot of rigmarole that I think would be so much easier if we just left ourselves a little bit more room.
Is there any beer that you haven't yet made that you would like to make?
Yeah, the last time that I was on your show, I was saying that I wanted to do a bière de garde, and so I still want to do that. And I've just been doing a little bit of research over the course of the last little while, and I'm trying to get a handle on the amount of time that it usually needs to condition, and so it takes a while. So I want to make sure that we're not taking up good real estate when we're in a busy time. So, but yeah, that is a beer that I'm looking forward to trying to make.
Yep. Now, on a more personal note, what would I find on your playlist right now?
Well, okay. So, well, I'm at home right now, so I'm in London. So even when I'm here, I try to have a regular day business. So while I'm listening to what I'm listening to while I'm kind of taking care of business would be internet radio, and I'm usually listening to a lot of kind of house music or some electronica, maybe a little bit something coming from Ibiza, that kind of thing. Then when the day is done, things kind of settle down. I like to collect vinyl, so I'd be listening to records in the evening, and that would be some jazz like Ella Fitzgerald or Miles Davis, that kind of thing. Or it could be some big band because I love swing and that kind of stuff. Or could even be some acid jazz because I like Saint Germain and stuff like that too. So just depends on the hour of the day as to what's on the playlist.
Okay. Next time Jackie's down with me, I'm going to mention that you collect vinyl and jazz. She'll really be into that.
Oh, does she as well?
She's slowly starting to collect vinyl, but jazz and big band has been her favorite for a long time.
Yeah, I love it. It's nice to it just takes you to a different place, which I think music has a wonderful thing. Like it can do that well. Yeah.
We've all been through a lot in the last 14, 15 months. So I'm curious how you have managed to stay grounded over everything in the last 6 or 7 months.
So 6 or 7 months, we've actually been open. Which has been nice in comparison to the first portion of the year. And I don't know. I always try to remove myself from the brewery for a little bit, at least a couple of days. So Monday, Tuesdays, I'm typically at home, and I try to get out if I can. Whether it was just getting out for a walk, but trying just to do some physical type of exercise now that gyms are starting to reopen. I do like to run or go and do yoga or something like that. So I find that that kind of keeps me in a good space mentally, because I can just kind of get out there and just de-stress in that capacity. But I also like to cook, and I like to read, and I do that kind of stuff. So I try to kind of compartmentalize myself, and I think that's really kind of helped to kind of ground me and keep me fresh for when I get back to the brewery, because they're usually busy days and long days when I'm there.
I can well imagine.
Yeah,
There's never a dull moment when you own a brewery.
I don't think so. No, at least not now. During COVID, it's been interesting, but yeah.
Which beer are we going to talk about next?
I think it would be good if you guys did the Cat's Pajamas, which is the American Pale Ale. So
Cat's Pajamas.
Yeah. So this is like our version. We'd not really done any other pale ale or a version of pale ale outside of the 519 that we do. And so I kind of wanted to try something that was a little bit more like classic American, that kind of thing. So really tried to focus on making something that was kind of crisp and clean if we could. It's a light amber color, which is nice. It has some malty sweetness. The hops that we use kind of give it, there's a little bit of grapefruit in there, some lemon. Some people have said they can get some apricot. I don't get that, but sure. Yeah, so it's just a nice kind of, I don't know. I like it. I think it's a nice, easy drinking beer, but yeah, it might not be to everybody's taste. I don't know. It's our first crack at the bat, like, so, or our first crack with the bat kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm sure it will be tweaked and kind of manipulated over the next reiterations of it.
Get the lemon right away, get the back end grapefruit. I do get why people might think there's a little bit of apricot in there.
Yeah.
Because just at the tail end of the grapefruit, you get that stone fruit kind of hint of what apricot is.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Of course, I'm biased because I have learned to like cooking with apricots.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So
that's good. Not a lot of people appreciate the apricot, I don't think. There's lots of good stuff that you can do with it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because you are a Red Seal chef. When you cook, what's your favorite dish to do?
So that depends on the season, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. So as we're coming into winter, I tend to kind of go into hibernation mode. I really don't drink as much beer. I probably could drink my weight in wine though, which is fun. And then from that, we just kind of roll into the heartier, heavier, beautiful dishes like cassoulet. I love doing risotto with beef cheeks on it and stuff like that. I love doing polenta with different types of, wild mushrooms and that kind of thing. So heartier, richer, throw in a few seasonal salads in there with a Brussels sprouts or cabbage or something like that. And yeah, you've got a tasty meal on your way. Lots of soups too. I do love a good soup. That's all year round. But yeah. Hot or cold. It's funny, and I'll just tell as a sidebar because it was funny. So I don't know how many of you like soup, but I did a gazpacho in the summertime, and so made it. Everything was coming from the garden. Everything was fresh, like at its height. It was a beautiful soup, and I couldn't sell it to save my life. I think we only sold like 2 servings, and everybody, like, all the staff ate it. They were like, yes, we're getting, they were very excited to take something home with them. But yeah, I don't know why, but North Americans, I find, just can't do cold soups. It's funny.
Probably a good point. Gazpacho is my favorite. I'm sorry I didn't get down there when you made it, because I would have, everything fresh out of the garden is fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
Like there's only one time in the season that you actually make a gazpacho, and it's just in the late fall when late summer when everything is kind of on, and it's beautiful. But yeah.
now I've been down a couple of times in the fall. How's the menu going to change up as we move into winter for food at?
So we'll be adding some this week. Actually, we'll be adding a hot pretzel to the menu, and that will be coming with like a beer sauce, a cheese sauce that's made with our 519 and a little bit of Beemster, which is an aged Gouda, and that will go with a little bit of a spicy mustard as well. As an alternative dip. And then the sandwiches will slowly start to ramp up. So what we like to do is try and, so we'll cook a chicken, like we'll roast a chicken. So it'll be a roast and chicken sandwich on something. And then any of the leftover meat and that carcass will the following week go into a stew or a soup or something like that. So we're using 100% of the animal that's being used, and we get something different as a special. But on a Saturday, as an example, we always have some kind of a soup, some kind of a specialty sandwich. And we like to change it up from week to week. So the base of our menu doesn't really kind of change too much. But the specials is where it gets to change from week to week. And that gives us a little bit more flexibility. It's not necessarily something that everybody likes. They want to go into a place and they want to know that they're going to be getting, the truffle French fries or the wings or whatever. And that's just, I don't know. We do offer some things like that, but that's not necessarily how we roll. We like to be able to have some fun and experiment with things. So
I hear you. My Italian friend that ran his restaurant in Woodstock, people couldn't get the fact that the lasagna was never the same because it was whatever was in season.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
What's been the hardest hurdle for you to overcome in the last 18 months of COVID?
That is a very good question. And if I'm quite honest about it, I think that we, for the most part, have done a very good job at navigating the waters of COVID over the last little while. But what I find the biggest hurdle is dealing with people, quite honestly. People somehow over the course of the last, year and a half have really just become a bit, I don't know. Well, some people they've just become assholes. I'm sorry, there's really no kind of delicate way to say that. But I mean, it's just like they lack empathy for a small business owner and what we've gone through, and their demands sometimes I find really outrageous, and or their expectations on what a small place can actually offer. And somehow for some reason they have this sense of entitlement that they've given themselves without any kind of I don't know what the word would be, but it's like there are no consequences to their actions for some reason, and they're okay to just treat my staff, which is I find unacceptable, but my staff and myself with just disrespect and ignorance, and that I find is very hard to take. So initially when we started back up, I was very I took a lot of shit from people, and now we're getting to a point where it's just like, no, thank you. If that's the kind of attitude you want to have, please, we can escort you out, or you can just leave, because we really don't want that negative vibe here, because that's just not what we're about. And you maybe just should have stayed home. So I'm not afraid, I guess, to where I'm going with that is, I guess, we're slowly becoming, myself and my staff, we're not afraid to actually say to people, I think it's time for you to go. And we're okay if that means that there's going to be some negative feedback or some kind of a blowback. And the way that we're looking at it is, if, there are 100 people, as an example, who have, gone online and have said, if so, 100 people have given their opinion of us on whatever social media platform they wish to speak on, that they've, 95 of them have said that they've really loved the place. They can't wait to come back. They've enjoyed the beer, the whole hospitality. And only 5 of them are giving us a bad review. Then, we need to kind of set our priorities and focus on the people that will be coming back, that bring their friends, that then bring their friends. And that's what we need to nurture. And we need to kind of just let those other people go. So it's a kind of a little bit of a hard balance, but that's been by far the biggest hurdle.
Sorry that you and your staff have had to navigate through that. It's been a problem anywhere when it comes to
100%.
serving people.
Yeah, 100%.
It's unfortunate. I was watching everybody sort of shaking their head when you started talking about it.
Yeah.
So, just like, yeah, why do people have to be this way when things are already difficult?
Yeah. And it's, I think a lot of people are just, a few of the customers that have come in, especially in the last little portion where vaccine passports have become mandatory. And, one gentleman just last week said, we're here to support your business. And this was to one of my staff members. We're here to support your business. I want to talk to the owner because we want to have a discussion with her on whether or not we can come in because we're not vaccinated. And they just stopped him right there. And it was just like, if you're not vaxxed, then you don't come in. Like, this is not her, like, she and we are not making these rules. This is legislation. So, and it was good. I was very proud of them for,
as you should be,
for standing up for themselves predominantly, but also to, to hold down what we're doing at the brewery and what a number of small businesses have had to do. So it's good.
So the young ladies that I've experienced a few times have been down to visit you have been exceptional. They're courteous and they're kind. They're knowledgeable about what they're doing. So
we've lucked out, I think, very much. Like the first round of shutdown, we had to let a lot of staff go. And but this I think one of the benefits that have happened from COVID is that we've kind of contracted this kind of cool, freaky bunch of people that like to hang out together and love to work together, and they love craft beer, and they're just like, they're all in. Like, everybody's drinking out of the same batch of Kool-Aid, and it's pretty fun. So, yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
What do you think's been the best thing that's happened because of COVID?
From a business perspective, I guess what I had just said, just that, we've attained some staff, and we've maybe kind of gotten a bit more of a backbone, whereas, before it was just like, oh yes, whatever you say, of course, okay. And I mean, that's what you're taught in hospitality. But I think there's a line that needs to kind of be drawn, that when people come into your establishment, yes, you're there to serve them, but you're not a servant. And there's a differentiation between that. And I think that, the context of what Derek is saying, the customer is not always right, is what we're actually learning about. And that, I think, has been a very positive thing. But I also think that on the flip side of that, people in Ontario have found out that just people in general have found out that people in Ontario, or just Ontario as a province, is a pretty cool place to kind of hang out and do things and go and explore. And I do hope that although although restrictions are starting to lift and international travel is becoming viable again, I do hope that they try to try to keep that in the forefront of their mind, and that there is a real benefit to keeping those dollars in our province to the communities that they're going to visit. And if that can happen, then I think we'll be much better off on the flip side of when COVID actually kind of, fingers crossed, kind of comes to that end and there are no more masks and no more check-ins and any of that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's been a whole movement to keep things local, and let's hope that it stays that way.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is truly beneficial for everybody. I'm not saying I want, you got to stay home all the time. Obviously, international travel is wonderful. I can't wait to board a plane again myself. But I think I understand the balance that's there, and it's an important one that we got to keep in mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, how did COVID change the message that CBC was putting out? Or did it?
Well, to be quite honest, I don't think it has changed our rhetoric or our message very much. If anything, COVID has kind of made it a little bit stronger in that, we've always been an environmental advocate and we'll continue to stay that way. But in light of like the UN environmental talks that are going on right now, we're just kind of hunkering down and we're trying to get it out there even more. So anybody who has the want, I guess, or the interest in what it is that we're doing, if you want to listen, we'll tell you what we're doing. And if we can help you get there yourself, then we'll do that too. And it's not just about, I think the beer kind of helps it because it's a social lubricator, right? So everybody kind of relaxes and it's a little bit more easygoing, and the ideas flow a little bit freer sometimes, which is great.
Which beer are we going to talk about next?
I think next you should probably do the Wedgie, which is always a fun one.
I'm scared to ask about the name.
Wedgie Delight, with the on the label, you got the little underpants and stuff. My husband really, he was vying for skid mark, and it was like, buddy, there's like a line and skid mark kind of crosses it. So we're just going to kind of come back, and how else can we soften that? And so it's just Wedgie Delight instead. So yeah, there was a little compromise there, but yeah, this is one of my favorite beers. It's been with us since the beginning. It's nicely balanced, I think. I like it once it gets just like a little bit warmer. There's a little bit of a hop presence to it. We use Brambling Cross in this as the hop, and it's just a one-time hop. There's a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of coffee that people will pick up. As it kind of starts to warm, it changes a little bit, but it's, I think, a fairly drinkable brown. Right now, it's the only dark beer that we have in cans available for people. And this past time that we were canning it, we took probably 250 liters off. So it's on tap and it's in cans. And we're finding that that's a much better, there's a little bit more synchronicity there. We like to be able to offer people a lot of stuff, like a lot of different varieties of beer. So what you come in to taste in the tap house might not necessarily be what's available in cans. And over the summer, there was just a hint of pushback on that because they really like what they've just had and they don't know if they're going to like what they're going to get. And it's like, okay, so how do we kind of bridge this so everybody's happy? And I think this idea that we've just done works, and people seem to like it. So, and as I said, it's one of my favorites that we've done.
So that is a normal thing that you're doing now, where you're canning most of it, but keeping some aside to be on tap?
Yeah, a little bit. It kind of it helps us move through our stock a little bit faster. And as I just explained, it helps people when they're purchasing to make a purchase for something that they've just had. And we've started to even if we're doing a small batch, we're taking a certain percentage off and we're canning that as well, so people can still be able to take a little something away. But if we're canning it, then what we end up doing is just putting a small, like we put a, you can only take 6 of this. And that kind of helps us to manage the amount that we have available for cans, so everybody can get some. So little different business model, I guess, but it seems to work for us right now. And until we kind of figure out something that is really like steadfast and yeah, that's something that's just steadfast. That's all.
How are you deciding what to brew?
Typically we're just going by the seasons. So throughout the summer, and I don't think that you were out when any of our other seasonals were there. But so we do a strawberry, we do a goza with some sour cherries, and a kaffir lime. We've got this pumpkin that's on. We've got a goza coming up with some quince that we have been slowly kind of acquiring from different people. So just those different types of things. So that kind of, there's a seasonal one that always kind of links everything together. And then it's like also the larger season. So in the summer, the Pilsner was definitely always on, just to facilitate. We had a hazy that was always on, but just this past weekend, the hazy's run out. And we have now a bigger IPA on. It's called Liquid Courage. And it's like a 7%, and it's got an IBU of 70. So it's like a heavy West Coast kind of IPA. But people want, in the wintertime, it's a bit nicer to be able to drink that kind of stuff. The slightly higher alcohol just it kind of warms you a little bit. And we also do a lot more darks. So stouts, porters, that kind of thing. So we'll transition by the weather as well, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I kind of assumed, based on everything that I know about how you try to do the seasonality thing, that would be how you do it, but I thought I should ask.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question.
A lot of books behind you. What would I find on your nightstand for reading material right now?
Well, I think it depends on which bed I'm in. So if I'm at home, I'm just finishing up a book that is called Project Animal Farm, which is just how meat kind of comes to market in today's day and age. I've got maybe a chapter left on that, and then I'm slipping into a Ruth Reichel book. She used to be the author of Gourmet Magazine. She was also a food critic, so I'll be reading that. But when I'm out at the farm and it's a bit more, I'm immersed a bit more in the brewery. I'm just halfway through a book. I'm sure you guys know, called like an American. I think it's called American Sour or American Sours, something like this. It's an older book, but just trying to do a bit more research. Sours are one of the beers that I kind of struggle with. We've done a couple of them, but I don't feel really comfortable with them. So I'd like to be able to kind of expand the knowledge base that I have, because they just are they're a little tricky. They're just a little tricky. So that's what's on my bedstand.
Are you going to do spontaneous at any time?
I would absolutely love to do spontaneous at some point in time, but I need restrictions to kind of loosen up a little bit more. One of the first sours that I did with a person who I respect very much. Her name is Jen Mad, and she works in Quebec. And so I'm waiting for her to come back and visit her family, so I can kind of lasso her for a couple of days. And even if it's just on a small kind of 20-liter, like I'd like to do something outside in the woods. I think that would be freaking crazy. I would love that very much. But yeah, I want to wait for her to kind of come back. And so because she loves those kind of ideas, and she thinks in a way that I don't necessarily. And I think it would just be lots of fun.
Who does the artwork for you?
On our labels and stuff?
On your labels, yeah.
Mostly Tim and I do. Yeah, it's a pretty like mom and pop shop. Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, I know like a lot of the other breweries, they have like really great, artists that are local and they come out, and I'm sure we could probably do the same. But we've got a list, like we both have lists of potential beer names, like pages and pages, and it's just like the stupidest randomest shit that you can kind of find, and it's just all kind of listed there. But we'll kind of make a new beer and we'll taste it, and then we'll give it to the staff and we'll let them taste it, and then we'll kind of go back and kind of pick our top three and then say, all right, so if we were gonna put this on a label, what would the artwork look like? And then sometimes it's just a pair of tidy whities that make it to the label, and other times it's a little bit more there's a bit more there, like, so it just depends on the name and what kind of vector image we can come across that will get us to really making people laugh. That's really all we want to do. It's fun, like it's supposed to be fun, and sometimes there's this kind of heavy overarching craft beer monster that sits on our shoulders, and it's just like we kind of just want to get off, and it's like enough, and we're just here to have a good time. We're here to make good beer, drink it, like it, let's have some fun with it, and that's it. Yeah, so just Tim and I. That's kind of a boring answer. I'm sorry. That's
Absolutely not. I was curious. I thought that probably Tim was involved in the labeling, but
well, with the skid mark, that was I've tried to minimize it just a little bit, but he has some good ideas. He has some good ideas. I guarantee you, every time people who have like never been and they look at the beers that we have to offer, they always stop at the Wedgie Delight and go, look at that, that's a brown ale, and look at the tidy whitey, and they always laugh, and somebody will always take at least one can, so yeah. When you tell the story of the skid mark, then they'll buy two. So, and it's usually the husband, because for some reason the male tete-a-tete is like, I know what you're talking about, buddy. Throw a second one in that bag. It's crazy.
So you've got all the girls trained to go, and by the way, the story behind this.
Yeah, for sure.
I usually ask this, and I'm always trying to find the right way to ask it.
Sure.
So I'll start out with, what do you think is your funniest beer story from like something that you did in the brewery that was like, never going to do that again?
Well, let me get my list out and then we can go from there. No, I would say most embarrassing, for me, it was embarrassing. We were just opening up. We were in our first kind of we've only maybe done like a half a dozen beers. I had a consultant with me working at the time to kind of show me how to utilize the larger equipment, because we are all on a manual, we're on a manual system. And I unwittingly undid the wrong clamp, And we had just transferred a significant amount of beer into a bright tank, and I let the bottom clamp out. And so there was just like this, we were just a wash of beer as it was coming flooding out of the bottom of the fucking tank. And I was just like, oh my God. So I'm standing in front of it with my body trying to stop it as we're trying to get this butterfly valve back on. And so we just kind of walked away, and that was my right there. Respect the equipment, and pay attention to what it is that you're doing, because everything that you have in here is under some kind of pressure, and no matter what you're doing, and it can hurt you. So it was an important one. I'm not going to mention how much beer we lost, because that's neither here nor there, but that was a secondary. That was just like, wow, okay, now I am going to physically be in debt until I'm 70 for the beer that I just lost. So yeah.
I haven't met too many people who are brewers who have not done something like that at least once.
It only takes one time, and then that's it. You learn your lesson quickly there.
Never doing that again.
No, for sure. Oh yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, yeah, it's just between us, so it's fine. Oh yeah.
Now, the last time we chatted,
Yes.
you talked very much about pumpkin ales.
Yes.
And how
Yes.
you're
it is.
only glad they happen once a year.
I am very glad, but you guys get to taste it tonight.
And I want you to talk to me about the pumpkin ale now.
Yeah. So the pumpkin ale, we haven't come up with a label for it. So it's with our experimental label. So it's just a handwritten bits and bobs on there. So we just call it a pumpkin, but the name of it is called the Monster Mash. And we have a local farmer that we get a particular type of pumpkin from. It's called the fairy tale pumpkin, which is a lot meatier, and it just has a more robust flavor associated with it. So that gets roasted in the oven, and then to take out as much of the liquid as we possibly can. And then that actually goes into the mash with everything else, which is great, unless you forget the rice hulls within the mash on that particular day, and it takes you an extra long time because your mash gets stuck. That was a fun one for this weekend, or for this particular year. Yeah, it just makes me love the beer so much more. But yeah, so Monster Mash, it's nice. Again, it's been with us since the beginning too. Smooth, kind of medium bodied. Again, the hop is not really big on that. What do we use on that? I can't remember off the top of my head. Nice amber color. We try to get a little bit of some notes of biscuit on there, or bread. So just to create the illusion that you're having pie. Because in essence, whenever I approach any of the different beers that we're making, it's always somewhat of a deconstruction of something that you can do in the kitchen, and then how can I recreate that with the powers that be, with grain and fruit and so on and so forth. So so you will get a little bit of the pumpkin, the classical pumpkin spice medley on there, with some cloves, some ginger, a little bit of cinnamon, some allspice, that kind of thing. So again, it's not everybody's bag. I'm not necessarily in love with the pumpkin. I think I've had a glass since it's been out, and it's my share. I don't necessarily want to take it away from anybody else who loves it. But yeah, like we usually have people calling asking for it like in August. And it's just like, dude, like it's the middle of the summer. Like, what are you doing? It's like when you walk into a store and it's Halloween, but there are still Christmas, the Christmas items are all going up already. And it's like, there's this weird juxtaposition that there's no timeline for anything anymore. It freaks me out. I don't know why are you in such a rush? That kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, so that's the Monster Mash. I hope you enjoy it. I don't know. Some people love it. Some people say it's too spicy. Other people say it's not spicy enough because they're just used to being inundated with cinnamon, I think. I don't know. It just depends on what your palate likes, I guess.
People are people. What can I say?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there's too much spice. There's not enough spice.
Yeah.
Where's the pumpkin flavor?
Yeah.
I don't get the pie.
Yeah. Exactly. So
Since we just passed Halloween, is the barn haunted?
no, I don't think so. Although sometimes I will smell cigarette smoke. None of the staff, like none of us smoke, but we'll sometimes smell it. And it's not just me, it's other people. And we honestly think it's Tim's dad that's still kind of hanging out. He passed away in 2014 and he was an avid smoker. He'd always go to the reserve to get his tobacco and stuff.
Yeah.
And he would do roll your owns. And it was like, there's a certain smell that kind of comes from that. And sometimes we'll pick that up, but we're always like, is somebody here? Who else? And go out to the smoking area and there's nobody there. So yeah, it might be. I don't know. No,
Just
I don't
curious
care.
because it's an old barn.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's the biggest influence in your life?
That's a good question. I think it depends on, I think it depends on, what you're talking about. With cooking and things like that. It's been, my gran was a great cook. Julia Child was another influential person. Not that I've ever met her. Alice Waters as well, very much an influential person who I have met. So, from that perspective, those are heavy hitters. They stand for something and appreciative of the message that they continue to put out. And from a brewing perspective, I don't know, I'm still kind of learning, I guess. And I'm open to a wide variety of ideas and I'm still very, I think I'm very new to it still. And I still have an immense amount to learn. And I'm just open to whatever kind of comes my way with regard to influence there. I don't know if that really sums up or if you'd like more meat on that, but yeah.
Sums it up. I mean, I got to walk through Julia Child's reproduced kitchen at the Smithsonian, and I was just in awe.
Yeah, I did too. It was awesome. That and Dorothy's slippers from The Wizard of Oz. It was the home run.
Yeah.
It was like, this is awesome. So let's go drink.
Yeah. What's been the most challenging beer for you to make?
I think the first Pilsner I did was kind of challenging, just because I had a number of different issues on the front side of it and it was mechanical equipment issues. So it was a little bit difficult, but just learning the nuances of conditioning and being patient, which is a lesson that I've learned, that is really, I think, an important element. And if each subsequent Pilsner that we've made has gotten better, but I still think, as I was alluding to before, sours are kind of, I don't feel uber comfortable with. And I think it's just the potential to infect everything. And that's the fear that I have. But I know, kettle sours, you don't necessarily have that, but trying to work with the equipment that we have to kind of keep it shut out and in. And it's just, I find it a little bit more stressful maybe to make, but it could be that I just haven't done enough of them to feel at ease yet. But yeah, those are the two that really kind of, are not just like, oh, yeah, but I will get there. 2022 will be a good year for practice.
I get both of those. You
Yeah.
make a mistake in a Pilsner, you can't hide it.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. And this one, like the one that you guys had tonight, quite honestly, if I can be completely transparent, it's a little hazier than I would actually like it to. And the reason for it is because I pulled it 2 weeks prior. I only let it sit for 4 weeks. And the one I did before, I had let for 6. And it was like crystal clear versus slightly. And so it's just like patience. You just have to be patient with those things. And when people are like, when is it coming out? And it's like, okay, dude, like, all right, here you go. There's your beer. But yeah, I think it's just, good things come, the old adage, good things come to those who wait. So.
Yeah. All great things take time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And sours, you can, even on a kettle sour, still mess up the rest of your brewing system.
Thanks, Bill. I'm appreciative of that. Now
I know you are. You were talking
can't wait
about
to
it.
get in there now. Jeez.
And some of the best brewers in this province have done that. Just,
I'm sure. Yeah, it happens. I'm pretty sure.
Great Lakes has never made any bones about the fact that what happened in the 90s, they had to clean from one end of the building to the other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One mistake.
Yep. For sure.
Derek's curious.
Yes.
In your opinion, what beer that you make best exemplifies what Charlotteville Brewing Company is all about?
It's a good question, Derek. I'm not sure. It's like a 50-50 split. Some of the summertime beers that we do, the strawberry and the cherry in particular, with the concept of the seasonality that's associated with that beer, or those beers, I should say, really, I think they kind of exemplify what we're all about. But yet, on the flip side of that, in the last little while, I've been getting a lot more feedback on the stouts that we do, and that they're really palatable and they're quite nice. And so I'm not sure if it would be like it's in between one of those two. And I just don't have enough. I don't have enough data yet to actually answer your question 100%.
One last easy question, maybe easy.
Sure. Yeah.
If you could brew for a day with anybody or spend a day with any one person talking about beer, who would that person be?
Well, to be honest, I think we had talked about this before, but it was after hours and everybody had left last time I was on. But yeah, it wouldn't just be one person. It would be, I'm going to be a little bit of a hoarder, because I'd like to have 3 different people there in that conversation. One of them would be Teu Musso. He is the kind of the grandfather of craft beer from Birra Belladonna in Italy. He does some really wonderful stuff. He's very creative, and he has a wonderful team working with him. I think the other person would be Sam Caglione from Dogfish Head, because just being one of the first kind of craft brewers in the States to kind of get up there and kind of put it all out there for people. I think both of them, I've had the pleasure of hearing both of them speak at conferences, and their passion just comes out, and that's really kind of wicked. And they do have a lot to share. And I think the third person would be the head brewer, and owner of Urban Artifact out of Chicago. and he does a lot. They only do sours, and they do a lot of sours every year. And I would absolutely love, I've listened to podcasts with him, and I would love to meet that guy and be able to brew with him. I think he's just really, really wicked and down to earth, and he just kind of says it like it is. And yeah, I think it's those three would be top notch.
Melanie, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to
Yes.
share your story with us again.
Yeah, of course. It's fun. I like being able to come on here. It's kind of cool. It's people that I don't normally get to see, so it's kind of fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you from all of us for joining us
Yes.
this evening.
By all means.
Remind everybody, Bevo and Chris are on next week from Third Moon. I will be getting the beer list out now that I finally have it to everybody tonight.
Cool beans.